Florida State gets good news on the injury front just in time for the Virginia game.
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Seminoles. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making Locked On Seminoles a part of your day each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. We are brought to you by our friends over at Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. We're also going to be talking about something fun today, and that is all the different injuries that are coming back around and getting healthy. That's going to be a theme throughout. But at the end, we're going to talk about ACC scheduling. A little bit surprising on the timing, but Florida State and every other ACC team, there's an announcement that's out from the ACC. I'll discuss it. Has a little bit of bearing on future schedules. We'll get into that, but I want your take on it. Also, the film doesn't lie. I watched Virginia. They're better than I thought. Definitely better than I thought, especially on offense. Florida State's going to get a good challenge. That is an offense that will come after the Noles, and I'll break down who, what, when, where, and why, and talk about their team overall, what the Florida State Seminoles have to face, and how it's probably going to help them quite a bit before they play Miami on October 4th in Doak Campbell Stadium. But again, we begin with the most important news, not only of today, but of the week. Florida State is getting good injury news from quarterback Tommy Castellanos all the way to the defensive side of the ball and everywhere in between. So let's get started. Tommy Castellanos was banged up, kind of rolled up after a pass in the last game against Kent State. He did return. He seemed to be his same jolly self on the sidelines, talking to friends, dancing around. But you never know. You never know. You have to go and look at kids after swelling takes place. You have to go look at them after they've been iced down, etc. A day or two later, you'll get more information. Just par for the course. All signs, according to Mike Norvell at his press conference on Monday, are a go. Tommy Castellanos should be good for Virginia, barring something that happens this week during practice. By the way, as a reminder, Friday night game. This is not a Saturday game for you waiting for the game on Saturday. It's already happened if you're waiting on Saturday. Friday night, 7:30, that's when it's going to take place. I don't know if it's ACC Network, ESPN, ESPN2, but we'll get into that Wednesday, Thursday. That could always change too. We'll talk about that a little later in the week, but a Friday night game in Charlottesville. So with Castellanos back, Sperry's been playing good, by the way, so even if he was hurt, I think they could win with him at quarterback. That's good, though, because you get some of the key players back. In particular, Squirrel White is practicing this week. Now, with the shortened week, that's one less day that he has to heal, get back acclimated to the offense and playing with Tommy and Kevin Sperry and everybody else. However, the most important note here, very important, it's still better now than the week of the Miami game. Do we expect Florida State to beat Virginia? Of course. I would rather Squirrel White and everybody else to get back into playing shape in a game that you should win by double digits, conservatively. I think that Florida State will win this game going away because they're more talented in Virginia. Again, I'll get into the whole ball of wax on their talent being a little better than I thought, but still, they're not going to beat Florida State. The point is this. Squirrel White needs those reps, not just mentally, not just physically. He's just got to believe that he's healthy again. Get out there, run around, and get hit. And that's the same thing with Pittman. He might be college football's best blocking tight end so far this season, but he got banged up some in the Alabama game. I want to see him running around as much as anybody because Gus Malzahn's packages change. Pittman's going to be back in the lineup this week too. So Randy Pittman and Squirrel White practicing for the Noles. Maybe they're on a quote-unquote pitch count or AKA they're only going to get so many snaps. Maybe it's 15 to 25. Whatever it may be, it still changes what you predict you're going to be able to do, kind of getting ready for the Miami game, because you'll get a barometer. How do they look out there on the field? And if you don't get to play them more than 5 or 10 snaps, or if it's iffy, that also changes things. But you at least know. I'd rather know in the Virginia game if it's going to go wrong as opposed to planning all week to have them against Miami. Then they play a few snaps and they can't go. That is the worst case scenario because you put all the practice time into players. And when it doesn't work, that's not good. You would have a whole week if it doesn't go well against Virginia. So besides them, a couple other key parts of this. Let's just stick with the offense. Chase Lofton surprised me. I knew he was a good recruit out of Nebraska, but I thought they would probably redshirt him. You got Marcus Douglas, Randy Pittman. Obviously, that's a great start, but you also had Landon Thomas back, Amari Williams. Chase Lofton's found himself a way to get on the field at receiver. He's an even better athlete than what I thought, but he got banged up, and it looks like, according to Norvell, it's most likely going to be multiple weeks that he's out, which sucks because you'd like to have another big-bodied receiver to rotate in and out of the game for Deuce Robinson if need be. Tayshaun Gelsey and other players, Elijah Moore, there's still other candidates, but as the saying goes, you want as many reps as possible being floated around in practice. Deuce probably won't practice a ton next week, I wouldn't imagine. Can't take any chance of him getting rolled up on or just tweaking something against Miami. He'll probably have his hand on a helmet for a good part of next week's practice. That's most likely. But I'd like to have Lofton getting reps. And against Virginia, I'd absolutely like him to get reps. That's the one bit of bad news here, but not everything's perfect. Good young player, and eventually I think he'll be a true flex tight end. But right now they got him playing receiver, and maybe if he keeps his weight down, that's where he stays long-term. Hard to say. Now, we haven't seen him play yet, but it's rare to find a 6'2", 330-pound man that can not only move somebody against their will, be explosive, have good hand movement, quick feet, but lateral quickness. Meet true freshman Kevin Wynn. Banged up in fall camp, has not played yet. He's cleared to practice this week. Much like I talked about with Randy Pittman and Squirrel White, getting Kevin back at nose guard does all kinds of things. You get an assessment, okay, how healthy he is, how much can he play, get him in game shape, all that's straightforward. But if he's really ready to go, they've played Darryl in multiple spots. If Kevin is truly ready to go, you can move Darryl all over the place. Daniel Lyons in the lineup. Okay, that's fine, but Darryl at the other end. You could have one of the biggest defensive lines in college football history on any given play with true defensive linemen, not just big slugs, but true athletes. And you would have guys that all three have a chance to play in the NFL with all that other speed around. What about Jenkins? What about Williams? There's a lot of different things you can do. Kevin Wynn changes your lineup. It is rare that you say that about a freshman at any spot. At nose guard, I don't think I've ever said it. Kevin's one of the rarer players that I've ever watched film of. I didn't get to see him in high school live. He played at a 1A school, small town Georgia. It's typical Georgia deal. Like they always have kids at small schools that everybody recruits. The Noles were fortunate to get him over UGA, Bama, and a whole bunch of other programs. But this is a guy at nose guard that has that rare strength. He is a dominant player. He sees the number 2 nose guard spot almost immediately, and he'll be your nose guard the next 2 years before he turns pro. He's a 3-and-out guy. Just has to stay healthy, which he hasn't done yet. But is he going to be healthy enough to really not only contribute against Virginia, but more importantly, get the reps needed for the coaching staff to plan for what they're going to do against Miami? I think this is a really important week for him to practice, get his sea legs, if you will. And if it goes really well, Kevin Wynn can be the key contributor in this game, although he's not going to have a bunch of stats playing nose guard. He's the guy that changes where everybody else lines up, how you block the front, and how you prepare for the Florida State Seminoles. That is very, very important. When we come back, I'm going to give my assessment of the Virginia Cavaliers, what they have, what they don't have. But overall, not going to lie to you, they're a little better than what I thought. That is next here on Locked On Seminoles. Today's show is brought to you by Square. Your favorite neighborhood spots are run on Square. There are certain businesses that truly make the neighborhood feel like home, whether it's the local sports bar packed on game days, coffee shop, or a guy like me who likes to go in and work, get a bagel, get a coffee, and get some stuff done. Or if it's just your corner deli, maybe it's a dry cleaner, whatever it is, all these things for decades have been in your local communities, and they need to be supported. Like I said, I like going in and getting a bagel, coffee, There are a couple of different breakfast restaurants I like to go to across the country. But if I'm in Tallahassee, just as an example, there's a couple of different places you could go to. Why not do it more often? I mean, there's nothing wrong with corporate places, but do you want to support your local economy? I know that I do. Black Dog Cafe is just one example of numerous places in Tallahassee that you could go and do it. And if you do that all the time, it's good for your community. Again, make sure you do that. And Square also wants to help you understand it more. So go to square.com/go/Locked On College to learn more. Square, see you in the neighborhood. We are also sponsored by our friends over at Gametime. College football is back, and all the excitement is a lot of fun. You want to get into Doak Campbell to check out the next game, whether it's against Miami, Pittsburgh, or anybody else, you can do it, but there are a lot of fees with some of these apps, but not with Gametime, and that's why I use it, and you should as well. You get the price up front, and you get the same price on the back, no hidden fees. The other thing about Gametime that I like is the very simple point. You click on it, you look at the game you want to see, you get the price, that's great, but you also get your ticket view right there on the Gametime app. It's very easy. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. College football tickets can get you in a little bit cheaper with Gametime, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the Gametime app today. Thank you once again for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Truly appreciate you stopped in to get all your latest Noles news. And now just my assessment from watching film of Virginia's latest game. That's a pretty explosive offense. I was flat out surprised. I knew that they were going to be able to do some things with Chandler Morris because he's a veteran quarterback. Just quick backdrop. I don't need this, all the stats and all that. I'll dive into that on tomorrow's pod. But Chandler Morris is for lack of a better phrase, a gym rat, a guy that grew up around Texas high school football. Dad was a coach. Dad's coached college. This is the kind of guy that has made it work for him wherever he's gone in some way, shape, or form, but never been like truly the guy. Never looked completely comfortable. Whatever they did at Virginia, and hats off to the Cavaliers coaching staff, not only is Chandler looking comfortable, he's a graduate student, he's been around, but their offensive line's making him that way too. I'll get into the skill players in a second, but if you take nothing else from this part of the show, note that Florida State's defensive line, while very talented, it's going to have its work cut out for it. Chandler Morris gets rid of the ball quickly. Chandler Morris makes decisive decisions. Chandler Morris looks off the safeties. Chandler Morris will not give you freebies. Smart player. Also a mobile quarterback. He had one of the best throws I've seen in years, rolling to his right-handed, threw a bomb with the guy bearing down on him and about to hit the sideline, like a 1 in a million throw. Put it on the money in the back of the end zone for a touchdown. Florida State's going to have some plays go against them. How do they rally? Those are going to be concerning moments. He's going to hit a few plays, but the key is to hit him. Can Florida State penetrate a pretty darn good Virginia pass protection scheme and create some havoc? 2 points on that. Number one, you got better players than some of the teams that UVA's play. Secondarily, while a decent group of talented players up front, I still think it's probably more cohesion than just raw talent. This is Virginia. They're not getting 4 and 5 star offensive linemen that UGA wanted, that Florida State wanted, that Clemson wanted. Not realistic. So Florida State probably can wear them down with their depth. And secondarily, I'm curious on this next point. Watching the film, you're not going to just rush do basic pass rush moves and get a ton of pressure. But you play Miami next week. Does Tony White and the FSU defense roll it out and show everything? Or do they just pick a couple of basic loop stunts that everybody runs and just play the cards that are dealt, deal with the consequences, and save everything for UM? I don't know. But I am curious. Do they bring a lot of exotic blitzes? Morris isn't going to be fooled pre-snap. You're going to have to disguise, and still get a little bit lucky. Again, he's a gym rat. Grew up around a dad that's a coach. He's played football as a quarterback for a long time, and he's a graduate student now. You're not going to fool this guy. What does Florida State show? Because once it's on film, it's on film. Everybody gets it, including the Miami staff. I'm curious to see what the Florida State coaches come up with on the defensive side to slow him down. As far as their skilled players, Harris, number 11, he's a dude. He'll play in the NFL. That is a wide receiver that has moxie. He has incredibly high level of confidence, and it's, to be honest, justified. Good route runner, stop and go, out and up, whatever he wants to run. If you bite too hard, he's going vertical. He will take the ball off your head. Big time player. They got a tight end that's a flex tight end, kind of a Chase Lofton, Amari Williams type that's got good hands. They'll throw the ball to the backs. They do all the little things. They are annoying to slow down as a passing offense. My question is, can they run the ball with any validity at all? Doubt it. And I think if I'm Florida State, this is how I would look at it. We got to know if we can handle Miami anyway. I would bring them up, make them throw over the top. And Chandler's good. Don't get me wrong. He'll hit a few plays. Play zone, tackle well, which Florida State has done this year. They've been a very physical football team. Come up, take away the short passes, and in doing so, also make them be in a lot of 2nd and 8, 2nd and 7s at best. In the run game, you're not going to run the ball. Make them one-dimensional. They might throw for 320, but run for 30. How are they going to do when they get in the red zone? And you'll also probably end up with a turnover or two if you do that. That's how I would do it. Tony White might have a completely different scheme, and his defense is very different than most people. We'll see. But Virginia, to me, doesn't have the running backs and the offensive line to just pound it down your throat. And Florida State is massive up front. I think they'll be in a lot of long yardage situations. DBs better be ready to run. They better hydrate on steroids, like hydrate all week long, because they're going to have to throw it. Chandler Morris, I suspect, will go above the 45 pass mark before the middle of the fourth quarter. They're not going to be able to run the ball. So we'll see how that goes. Their offense has got some skill talent. We're okay on the offensive line. Their D-line is okay, but they started getting pushed around a little bit here and there. I think Florida State's going to gash them. Linebackers are okay. They run to the ball, all that. Tony Ellitt's done a good job there, but you just don't get the kind of athletes that you need on defense. I love this quote, although I'm not a big fan of the coach that said it. Brian Kelly once said, you can scheme offense, but to be successful on defense, that's recruiting. Virginia doesn't recruit those kind of players. So I think they're going to struggle against the Noles there. There wasn't any one guy that I thought was unbelievable. They hustle. They play hard. That's good, but they're not anything that's special to me. They run pretty well in the secondary. Safety, that's a little concerning. I don't think they're going to handle Deuce or any of the big body guys that Florida State has, Makai Danzy. Expect at least a couple of plays down the field that Tommy's going to have a chance to make. So we'll see how that goes. When we come back, why is the ACC releasing conference scheduling news today, yesterday, whatever? It's kind of bizarre. We're going to talk about it next here on Locked On Seminoles. Today's show is brought to you by Mazda, who crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. And with all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. The ACC has announced that there's a 9+1 schedule. Now, you're probably like me when you first saw that, and before I clicked on it, I'm like, what does 9+1 mean? Pretty simply, you're only allowed to play one game that is non-FBS. There are 136 teams in the FBS. 136. Most teams play some lower level program. East Texas A&M for Florida State this year. Miami oftentimes plays Bethune-Cookman or Florida A&M. Those kind of games are very common in the ACC, but you're now only allowed to schedule one moving forward. I don't know the exact date. I didn't look into it yet, but from my experience, regardless, that probably won't happen right away, because these schedules are put out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years in advance, sometimes as much as 10 with some of the bigger name schools. Like if you play a big out of conference game. Florida State's playing Alabama. That was probably set 5-10 years ago. I would imagine that there's going to be a little waiting period on this. We'll see how it goes. But here's my take. The ACC just wants to have at least some bargaining chips. They don't want anybody, even if it's a team that wasn't picked to do well, like maybe somebody that's picked more middle of the pack, like Georgia Tech this year, they might end up in the ACC title game. Very possible. It is more about having the schedule to get into playoff. Go big or go home. The playoff is where the money is, and the ACC has an image problem. They want everybody to play a tougher schedule, and if you don't make it, you don't make it. But you're going to play more teams that at least give you a chance. So what happened to Indiana last year where they're on that fringe, even though we're 11-1, doesn't even come into question. No chance. So we'll see how that goes, and I get it if that's their logic. But at the same time, most teams only play one of those FCS schools. If you're dominant and you go 11-1 and you play 2 FCS, I could see it being held against you. But look, you're going to get in. No 11-win team is not. It's just not going to happen. So I would imagine that they're being a little overzealous. But there's also scheduling that leads to a higher seed. That's another way to look at it. And finally, it's just perception of the league. They want teams playing a better schedule, and their advertisers, I guarantee you, do as well. Advertisers don't want to hear about Florida State playing East Texas A&M. It's the private room conversation. I've been a part of some of those. They don't want that. They want major marquee games. And to that point, and further proof, the ACC saying Notre Dame, yeah, you're going to be a part of this still with the 5-game deal that Notre Dame's doing with the ACC. But they're also going to play Miami, Florida State, and Clemson more often than other schools. Why? Advertisers. They want to see Notre Dame playing Clemson. They want to see them playing the Noles and the Canes. Money. So it works in another way as well, getting rid of one of the FCS games. They're hoping Notre Dame or some other schools similar are playing out-of-conference games against the ACC. You can agree with that. You can disagree with that. But it's always about the money. The ACC, the advertisers, they care about the money. Don't ever kid yourself. It is always about the Benjamins. Thank you once again for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. If you're coming to us via Apple, hit that automatic download so you get it each and every day. We're on Spotify, Podbean, Apple, YouTube, and anywhere else you get your podcasts. We will see you again soon on Locked On Seminoles.